All right, anchoring was one of the things I should have learned from the very start when I started learning about Lazarus, but it seemed a little difficult or a little too advanced for me, so I kind of skipped it, and I regret it now because it's one of the first things you should learn. So I'm going to share what I've learned. Maybe it'll make things easier for you to pick up. I know the documentation is not so great with Lazarus, so any bit of information is really helpful in uh, in setting up programs for Lazarus. So let's start with a new project. I'm just going to choose the default application. I'm using two monitors, so some things might be off screen. So here's our form, and I'm going to start by demonstrating with a button how anchoring works. So if we place a button in this top left corner, let's run our application. It behaves normally. You can resize it, and it works as expected. But let's say we move this button down. A lot of times, if the button's at the bottom right-hand corner, we expect it that when we resize the window, the button will also move along with it. But by default, this doesn't happen in Lazarus. So we can move it, no problem. Let's resize, and it stays where it is. And that's not a problem because that's how it's designed to work. But if we go into our object inspector here and under the anchors, I have it expanded, but normally uh, if you look at the anchors, it'll tell you how it's anchored. And by default, it's anchored to the top and to the left. So let's change that. Let's anchor it to the bottom and to the right. And let's see what happens. So let's run our application again and resize it. And so that works as expected. Wherever we move the button, if we move it in further, let's run it again. It's still proportional to where you've placed it. So if you've placed it 30 pixels away from the right-hand border and another 30 pixels away from the bottom border, it will always be like that. But let's say we don't want that. We want it to go right to the edge. And if we click here, the three little dots appear, and which brings up the anchor editor with more advanced properties. What we can do from here is select exactly uh, how we want that button to align. So I'm going to choose form here and all the way at the bottom, and also form on the right anchoring and also to the left edge. So this is one of the options you have here. Let me demonstrate the center option and also the sibling anchoring. For now, we'll just anchor it to the bottom of the form and to the right hand of the form. You could also center it here as well. These will become more meaningful when you start doing more advanced things. When we get to the splitter, I'll show you how these options will work a little differently. But for now, let's just keep going. And again, let's compile and run. And it lines up perfectly to the edge. But let's say we want to move it in just a little bit from the bottom and from the right hand side. Go back into the anchor editor and we can choose the border spacing. So I'm going to increase the right border spacing to, let's change it to 15. So you'll notice that it moved in a little, and let's do the same thing for the bottom. And now if we compile our app again, So that's all the things I can show you with the button. We can do all kinds of things. Now, what's interesting is that this is not strictly to anchor buttons. This is to anchor all the components that have an anchor option. So you could do this with any of these other, you could do this with the memo, you can do this with the list box, combo box, so anything that supports anchoring. What I'll do next though, I'm going to delete this button and I'm going to add a panel. So let's go to our standard and panel here. So I'm just going to drop in a panel. I'm going to change the color. So let's choose something. Let's choose green. All right. So one shorter or faster way of doing this is, let's say I wanted this panel to cover the entire form, and when I resized it, it would still extend to the resized area. What we can do is come up to the alignment part and just select alignment client. So if we compile and run this, this extends wherever the, whether it's full screen or minimize, not minimized, but size to a smaller size, it works. But let's get out of this again, and I'm going to add a splitter. And the splitter will start making sense on how you've used some of the applications and wonder how they're able to resize and move uh, the components around, especially like in Lazarus here. See the splitter here, how it does this? We can do this in our own programs as well. So I'm going to show you in a simplified way how to do the same thing. So one of the things you want to do when you add a splitter to your window is go and select the none alignment. So once you do that, you can move it around. So there it is. What I want to do is take this splitter. First of all, let's change the color. That way it's much easier to see. I'm going to choose, let's choose red. Okay, so now we can see it. I'm going to make the width a little thicker. Let's make it 25 pixels. All right, so what I want to do is anchor the top of the splitter to the top part of the form, and the bottom part of the splitter to the bottom part of the form. So if we extend that out, let's select the splitter and come into our properties here, and let's disable left anchoring. Select form here and form here as well. Notice it went off screen because we don't have the right one selected, so it should be bottom anchoring here. So let's test this. All right, so we can move this left to right. That's what we want. And if we resize it, it extends to the full size of the window. What I want to do next is anchor this panel to the top part of the form, left part of the form, and bottom part of the form, and to the left part of the splitter. So whenever I move the splitter, the panel resizes. So let's try and see if we can do that. So I have the panel selected. We choose form. Left hand side, we choose form. Bottom, we choose form. And right, we choose splitter. And that all looks right. There we go, that's right. So this was in the wrong position. You got to line up your anchoring properly, otherwise it doesn't behave properly. So it looks like we aligned everything properly. So I'm going to change this to align. Let's choose this. So see how it extended a little? We don't want that. We want it to align with the left hand part, not the right hand part. And if you click here, it will actually align it with the right hand part. So be careful with these little settings. The little pictures can seem a little deceiving at first, so pay attention to the markers. So right now, if I run this, we should be able to resize our panel. And it works as expected. Now again, I'm only using the panel to demonstrate, but if I have a list box, it would work the same way. And we'll get to that. I want to add one more thing that will probably make everything click. And so we have a splitter that goes from left to right, but how about a splitter that goes up and down? So that's one of the things I had to play around to figure out. So again, let's add a splitter. And again, choose the alignment to none. That way you can move it around. And I just lost my splitter. Let's select it. Okay, again, change the color so you can easily find it. Once you've settled on a position, you could always revert back to the default colors, but while you're trying to figure things out, I find that choosing a different color helps out. So let's click, let's make this a nice orange looking color. And so one of the things you'll notice is that this is still only a left to right sizer, not, sorry, let me reword that. This is a top to bottom splitter, not a left to right. So what we need to do is change that. And if we go to the sizer anchor, see how it's left? Let's choose bottom. Okay, and let's choose a height of 20 pixels. Okay. So that's what we want, but this is not anchored to anything, so it doesn't look right at this moment. So let's anchor it to the right hand of the form and to the left hand side of our first splitter. So if we go to our anchor properties again, so we want it to go to left side, left side, we want it to go to the form. No, left side, we want it to go to the splitter, but not to the left hand side of the splitter, the right hand side of the splitter. So that looks right. No anchoring on top, no anchoring at the bottom. We do want anchoring on the right hand side, and it should go to the form, and it should be on the, yeah, on this. We don't want it to be on any of these other settings because it will not snap to the proper place. All right, so the next thing to do is test this and see if it goes where we want it to go. So we want this to go up and down, and when we use this splitter, we also want the other splitter to extend. So that does what we want. And if we resize the window, everything still works properly. Now we don't have a panel here. What we can do is insert one, and let's drop this in and extend our form a little bit. Let's, before we get to the anchoring, let's change the color for this as well. Let's choose a different color for this panel, and let's choose pink. Nice pink panel. All right, so let's anchor this panel to the top right of the form, to the right hand of this splitter, to the left part of the form, and to the top part of the bottom splitter. So that's splitter 2 here. So let's see if we get this all in one shot. So we said left goes to splitter 1, but it's going to the wrong position here. It should go to this one. So that lines it up exactly where we want. And right hand side should go to the form, and it should be this one here. Okay, and top anchoring should go to the form, and it's at the right place. Okay, good. Bottom should go to our second splitter, splitter number 2. And this is our correct one because it lines it up with inside our splitters. So even if you're not sure, just clicking on things, you'll visually see what's the correct one. So let's just try running this, and so left to right extends both panels properly, up and down, resizing the window. So now that I've shown you this far, you basically understand how all these splitters and the resizable windows in all the Lazarus applications work. They work the same way as this. So maybe this will give you ideas on how you can do this in your own programs. Now let's just take this a little further. Let's say we wanted to have a list box in here. So instead of your panel, I'm just going to leave the panel in place. But even if you didn't have a panel, you would anchor it the same way. But just let's drop in a list box. And I'm going to choose a different color for the list box. Let's choose this gray color. And now if we go, remember we in the beginning I showed you the client alignment. Well, now if we just select client, it doesn't take the full window, but because it's the its parent client area, the T panel takes this area, that's what it takes up. So if we run this again, our list box resizes when we resize the window. It resizes when we move the up and down splitter, and it resizes when we move the left and right splitter. So hopefully some more things have clicked in at this point. And we can do this with also, let's drop in. So there's nothing here. There's no panel in this corner. Let's drop in a memo. Where's the memo? Here's the memo. Let's drop it in here. I'm going to leave the memo with the default color. And let's see if we align it with the client area. And that didn't work. That just took up the whole screen. So what we can do is, let's choose none for the moment. We could go in here and manually select our alignment or our anchoring. So left-hand side, we wanted to go to the splitter. First splitter. So splitter 1. And we don't want it to be on this side. So that's proper. And let's choose our right. We want it to be on the form, and we want it to be right across, right beside the edges. And our top anchoring should go to the bottom part of the second splitter. Splitter 2. And the bottom should go to the form. Okay, so that looks right. So we can even test it. So our memo grows. Let's type in some things. And I think that's as far as I can take this video. So this is everything I've learned up to this point. I'm going to be using some of these techniques to enhance my own programs. But because I couldn't find anything that explained it this thoroughly, I thought I'd put this video together. So I hope you appreciate it. Leave a comment if there's anything I made that's a big mistake or a big no-no. Please let me know. Again, it's hard to find this information, so any little bit of information is really useful and important. So that's it for now, and thanks for watching.